Good evening. So let me go over Chapter 10. Chapter 10 is actually really short, but the subject matter is really deep, very sobering, and very poignant to what happened. Because you would think Japanese Americans worked really, 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 really hard to prove that they're loyal to the United States. That very thing put the Japanese Americans in Japan during war in a really treacherous situation. And I'll give you a couple of people as a case, or three people. Not a lot of Japanese Americans were in the United States during the war. About 10,000 were in Japan during the war. Ms. Tomita went to Japan in June 1939 to become a student at Waseda International Institute in Tokyo. She stayed with her host family. 1941, because even Japan, they can see, something is going on between Japan and the United States. She decided to return to the United States in 1942. However, that delay proved fatal. By the time her parents told her to return to the United States in December, it was too late. Japan attacked Pearl Harbor. The ship that she was on, headed back to the United States, ended up making a U-turn back to Japan. So rather than return to her host family, she was forced to register as a member of their household so she can get rations from the government. This decision later delayed her return to the United States because her loyalty to the United States was in question. It's like, if you're loyal to the United States, how come you asked for the Japanese government to help you? So, and then the woman of the house, because she was living with a family, that woman who was nice to her when she was a student, all of a sudden that person was hostile and toxic. So rather than see her as a fellow Japanese, she was seen as an American, the enemy. Although the war ended in 1945, it took her more than 1 year before she was finally allowed to go back to the United States. In the United States, she raised her family. She went back to school to earn 3 master's degrees and eventually became a librarian. From her experience in Japan as Japanese American loyal to the United States, she kept her promise to combat prejudice and social injustice by becoming politically active in her church. Atomic bomb survivor, 700 Japanese Americans were living in Hiroshima or Nagasaki when the United States dropped the atomic bomb on those two cities. Ms. Enseki witnessed the bomb being dropped. She saw the mushroom cloud. She saw people getting very sick. About a week later, they were finally allowed to take a bath. However, many lost their hair. Later on, they learned that this is a side effect of the radiation. Eventually, she was able to return to the United States with her son. Sadly, her husband was a prisoner of war on the Pacific side, and they never heard from him again. Unlike Japanese atomic bomb victims who stayed in Japan, they were given free medical care by the Japanese government. However, as a Japanese American going back to the United States, she had to pay for her own cancer treatment. Sadly, she died in 1980. Mr. Kuramoto, another Japanese American victim of the atomic bomb. He was able to fight, able to gather the funds, work towards getting legislation that will provide free and adequate care in the United States. But then again, you can see with Ms. Enseki, it was already too late for her. Another person, Aiva Toguri, some of you may be familiar with what happened to her. And the wiki could probably give you a better idea about exactly what happened to her. So, she's Japanese American. She was another person who missed her chance to return to the United States before the war began. July 1941, she had an ill relative in Japan, so she went to Japan to take care of her. However, this is what went wrong. At the Consulate General of Japan, she left with a state certificate of identification and instructions to obtain her American passport. Unbeknownst to her, until after it was too late, her application for that passport was denied. Now, she's in Japan. She refuses to renounce the U.S. citizenship. As a result, she's seen as the enemy of Japan, living in Japan. So she was hounded by the Kempeitai Army Thought Control Police and Internal Security. Because she was hounded by them, she was denied wartime rations because she's the enemy, and officials restricted her movements. So each time she went outside, people are watching what she's doing and telling her what she can and cannot do. In February 1942, again, she tries to return to the United States. Again, since she doesn't have a passport, she's denied again. Later on, she's given a chance to board a ship. However, they told her, you need $425 to board that ship, and obviously she doesn't have that kind of money. So the ship sailed without her. So stuck in Japan without any help from the government of Japan and the United States, she had to take whatever job was offered to her. Because keep in mind, she's not getting any wartime rations. She's not getting any support from the United States government. So she has to work to put food on the table. So she started as a typist and a piano teacher, which by itself, nothing was wrong with that. Next, she got a job typing and monitoring English language shortwave broadcasts at Dome New Agency. There, she met her future husband, Felipe J. Diaquino, who became her friend and supporter. Now, Felipe is Portuguese of Japanese descent. Now, mid-1943, she became sick, and her husband nursed her back to health, and she took her second job as a typist in the business office of Radio Tokyo. This is what put her between a hard rock and, So there she met and befriended 3 prisoners of war. So she's talking with the enemy, and she is the enemy. They were working on the English language Zero House program. She was offered the position. At first she said no. Because obviously, she's an enemy alien in Japan. But when the government of Japan is offering you a job and you say no, punishment includes starvation, beatings, and execution. So the prisoners of war told her, no, you have to accept this job because the government's offering you this job. So finally, she accepted the job. She wrote her first prisoner of war script over the air in November 1943. 1944, she got a full-time job at the Danish legation and to continue working at Radio Tokyo. Note, she is not the only, air quotes, Tokyo Rose. There were 12 other women, English-speaking women, who were also called Tokyo Rose. At the end of the war, the reputation of Tokyo Rose reached the United States. Some, like the Director of Welfare, laughed at the propaganda. Significant number of the United States heard their English language broadcast. American news reporters went to Japan looking for the person behind Tokyo Rose. Never mind that 13 women were behind that voice. However, when they narrowed it down to Miss Toguri, they decided there was only one Tokyo Rose and she was it. 2 writers interviewed her. From this interview, Japan arrested her. She was never told what the charges were. She was denied legal counsel, denied speedy trial. She was prohibited from sending and receiving paper mail. She spent 1 month at the Yokohama jail, 11 months in prison in Tokyo. That Christmas, she was finally allowed to talk with her husband. The United States authorities released her due to insufficient evidence to bring charges, so she settled in Tokyo, 1947. By then, she was pregnant, and she asked again, please let me go back to the United States. Now, this opened up a Pandora's box because she is still labeled Tokyo Rose. Sadly, during this ordeal, she lost her baby. August 1948, she was arrested again by Japan. This time she was charged with treason. After the trial, her husband was sent back to Japan and forced to sign a document promising to not return to the United States. She ended up spending 6 years, 2 months in prison. Although her attorney tried to convince authorities she's innocent, this is during wartime, she had to take that job, It's not that she's not loyal to Japan. It's, if she didn't accept that job, she would have been, punished. So her attorney tried to file for executive clemency in 1954 and again 1968, and both were denied. 1974, the Japanese American Citizens League and National Committee, they banded together. They launched an informational campaign and begged legislators, please pardon her. This was during wartime. She did what she was forced to do. This is not who she is. It's because of the situation that she was in. Finally, January 1977, then President finally granted her a full pardon. As of 1990, she was quietly living in Chicago, where she works at the bookstore her father started. So you can Google Tokyo Rose, get more information about this, and questions, comments, constructive criticisms, ask for clarification, let me know. And when I'm ready, I will summarize the next chapter. Take care.